Hi, I'm Shaun Reynolds.
And I'm Rachael Reynolds.
And welcome to What Was I Made For?
The podcast about doing what you love and prioritising your happiness.
While we aim to inspire, motivate and entertain you, please note that we're not licensed therapists or certified experts.
So if you're considering major life decisions like starting a llama farm or quitting your job to become a professional skydiving instructor, maybe get a second opinion.
Enjoy the show.
See, I just do what I want, do what I love. I don't want to stop, don't want to grow up. Just me being me, don't follow the crowd. Don't be a sheep, look at me now. But now it's time to make more, create more. Looking at the points cause it's time to take score. Feeling like I'm grown now that I can face more. Got one question, what was I made for?
Welcome back, everybody. Happy Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday.
Today we have the wonderful Tommy Reynolds as our guest on the pod.
No relation
to us in any way, shape or form, but has been a very good friend of ours for many, many years.
Yes.
Very successful photographer.
Slash videographer. Some brilliant stories in this one. Mm-hmm. I was engrossed, even though I've known him for so long. Yeah, and very funny as well. We had a good old laugh and a good catch up.
We did have a good
So
laugh.
enjoy this episode.
Oh, good one if you're a new dad.
Oh, yeah.
Really, really insightful to the male perspective of becoming a new parent. So,
yes.
Enjoy everybody. Tommy Reynolds.
Let's go.
Well, I was going to say that you don't have to look very far in our entire house or in this studio before you will find a photo that's been shot by you. Even our artwork for What Was I Made For?
Funny story.
Couples therapy.
Funny story about that.
That was like 7 years ago.
I know.
Don't tell them that.
Sorry.
There's us like, yeah, we still look that young.
Well, yeah, I think we can get away with it. We both look kind
For
of
now,
the same.
we'll be calling you, Tommy, to be like, okay, it's about time we actually look our age on the What Was I Made For.
No, let's stay young. Stay young,
I'm
I say.
happy with that.
Yeah, so Tommy shot the photos. You can see, I don't know if you can see them behind him. Yeah, I think you can. For our artwork. And that was actually for a project called Couples Therapy, which is a vlogging channel that me and Ray started in an absolute pipe dream. When we had loads of time. We had loads of time, and then Ray started the dance school and then had no time for it. So that's why that kind of just fizzled out.
But what a fun shoot that was.
But it's good that we've got those pictures because they've now been repurposed and they look, I'd say, even better in this project.
Definitely.
It is fun, isn't it?
Out of interest, when you were coming up with the pods and thinking about imagery, did it come to you quickly? Oh, that shoot we did so long ago, or was it? Did you think, oh, I guess we'll have to do a shoot? Oh, wait, hang on.
I actually don't know. I think I was messing around with ideas for the artwork, and I was like, oh my god, we have the couples therapy stuff. I was like, oh, if only me and Rach had a shoot that we did together. Wait, we do.
The Tommy Reynolds folder.
Well, I could have used the capstone. I could have used the capstone shots, but I think they're a bit too like.
Oh yeah,
they were like River Island models.
Oh
yeah,
my
that's
gosh,
true.
I forgot about that one.
Yeah.
They come up on our TV screensaver every now and again, and I'm like, who do we think we are?
Well, no, because Tommy gave us the opportunity to be models for the day,
Yeah,
which I think was really fun.
It was so fun.
It was my project, to be fair.
Exactly,
I'd
yeah.
asked you to.
It was such a good day.
Yeah,
I
that
loved
was fun.
that day.
Yeah, it was. And then Tommy also shot our wedding.
I did.
You're our wedding photographer.
Which was one of the last times I saw you guys.
Yeah.
So it's,
Yeah.
3 weeks before lockdown, which we spoke about when you got here today.
And my gosh, has a lot changed since then.
Yes, it has.
Tommy is a homeowner now, a dad, a husband.
Yes.
My God, the big three.
And that all happened in the last 2-3 years.
You've been a busy boy.
My life's changed so much. In the grey as well.
I'm loving the grey.
Do you?
I'm jealous.
I really like it.
I've got a little streak going
Shaun's
on
trying
here.
to match you.
I've got a little.
Oh
is
yeah,
it this
I can see
side?
little,
This side?
little
Yeah.
whisper.
No, I love it.
Yeah, I can see that. Oh, how cute! How cute your little grey
Bless
whisper. I love it, mate. I honestly think your silver stuff. Yeah, you'd think it would have been done professionally, but that's natural, isn't it?
Thank you. Yeah, it's all actually, I had been dyeing my hair. I've been going grey since 23, so I'm 34 now. But since 23, I started going grey, and obviously at 23, that's not cool. Yeah. So I've actually been dyeing my hair.
Wow.
Right up until.
God, you did it well.
Oh, okay.
I never would have known that.
Or did Cassie do it well?
So I did it myself, actually.
Did you?
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah,
I would not have trusted myself to dye my own hair.
I'd go into the shop, down that section, and just very quickly pick up my, what was it? dark natural brown.
I mean, it was because no one
I would
suspected a
never have
thing.
known that.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
It was only until lockdown that we weren't going out, and I thought, do you know what? I'm just going to not
Embrace
dye.
it.
And my hairdresser knew, and he was like, "You really, just please stop dyeing your hair." He was like, "It would look great." I was like, "Ah," but then no lockdown. I thought, sorry, I'm just going to let it grow
No, it
out.
looks
And then
great.
since then, I've had people say, "Oh no, it looks good," so
Yeah.
I've left it.
Yeah. No,
So
it's
you're
good,
going
mate.
to end up looking even more like brothers when
That's true.
when your
I
streak
need to wear my
becomes...
glasses all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I think we'll be there.
Yeah.
But, and I can't grow a beard though.
That is one thing, that you'll never
Keeps
have
you
like
useful.
Tommy.
I got ID'd the other day. At
Did
the
you?
Pub. Yeah, at the pub.
Because you're a year older than
A
me.
year older than you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I got ID'd at the pub, and it makes my day now. Because I'm like, next year I'll be 2 18s.
Oh my god.
I'll be twice 18.
And I was actually stood next to you when that happened, and I was like, and mine, no, okay,
I
fine.
was like, forget my mum.
Oh, okay. But what I was going to say is the clip
Can I
on
have a pint,
TikTok.
please?
Yeah. She'll have a sherry.
Oh my god! A troll commented on one of our videos last night.
That's when you know you've made it. Is when you when you
yeah.
get trolled.
But mate,
Yeah.
this troll made my absolute
yeah, Shaun was
life.
over the moon because this troll.
I was jumping around. They said, "Oh, I hate it when people in their late 20s start thinking like that." And I was like, "Oh, yes!" Even the trolls think I look young.
I think it was disgusting men in their late 20s.
Disgusting men in their late 20s.
Whoa.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
My
Yeah.
favourite comment on a YouTube video has been, "Comb your hair, it bothers me." That's been my favourite
Wow.
comment. It's just so ridiculous.
How
And
simple are people's lives that's
Was
their
like an
biggest
older
worry?
relative. That sounds like something an older relative would say. Oh, for God's sake, comb your hair, Tommy.
I've never owned a comb. You must have had some weird comments on.
Yeah, I
on the
got,
YouTube
who's
videos.
this fat Justin Bieber wannabe?
What?
Yeah, that was a good one. That was a funny one.
Well, in light of one of the things we learned at the podcast show yesterday, which was a lady who reviews podcasts for The Observer,
Yeah.
and her advice was, get to the point, people are busy. So,
Stop
with
rambling,
that in
Shaun.
mind...
Sorry, yes, come on.
No, it's not your fault. It's us like, just catching
Well,
up.
no, let's do the first bit. Drink of choice,
yeah,
Tommy.
drink of choice.
What was your drink of choice today?
It was a flat white with oat milk.
Specifically with oat milk.
Specifically with oat milk.
We drink oat milk too.
But you
so-
are you still a coffee connoisseur?
Yes, I do very much like
Oh,
it.
how is it then? How is this coffee
It's
shop?
very good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
That is
it
why
is
we
really
went
good.
over to the proper coffee shop, because we didn't trust ourselves with we can do an espresso coffee, but we've seen what you do with coffee, Tommy, and we were like, no,
This man,
over to the cafe.
this man has opinions.
Yeah.
No, it's really good. It's
Good.
really good. And not oat milk out of choice. Like, it's just because I just enjoy the taste of,
Yeah.
of oat milk.
Yeah,
Same
we're
as
the
us.
same.
Yeah, yeah.
Oat
We're
and
not, we're not
cocoa.
vegan.
We've not.
We just
no,
like oat milk.
no, we've not had cow's juice for a long time.
Cow's juice. Freshly squeezed cow's juice.
Anyway. What did young Tommy want to be when he was growing up?
As you said that, it's just made me remember when I was at school. I must have been about 6 or 7 years old, and I can still remember this. And we were asked to draw what we wanted to be when we grew up. I can't believe I'm remembering this. I'm going to describe the picture and then tell you it. I drew a picture of me standing, let's say, next to a river, and there's someone in the river drowning. Calling for help. I'm dressed all in black, and the teacher said, "What on earth have you drawn? What do you want to be when you grow up?" And I said, "A hero."
Oh, thank God it wasn't a drowning person.
So that's moments before I jumped in the river to save them. I
Wow,
wrote
okay.
a hero.
Oh, how's that going for you?
Not well.
Walks past rivers every day. Still nothing.
Still waiting.
Oh, how similar to mine. I wanted to help the poor people.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, that's what I
didn't
also.
I didn't have this task at school. You
No?
guys had these like really fun tasks
Yeah,
of what you wanted to
mine
be.
was you had to write when I grow up I want to be, and I wrote I want to help the poor people.
Oh, that's cute.
It is, and yesterday we got a free packet of biscuits in Victoria train station, and I was like, I think I'm going to give them to a homeless person. And you went, they'll be nice with a cup of tea later.
Don't you put like that sentence together
In
like
all
that? It makes me
fairness-
sound
In all
awful.
fairness, we didn't walk past a homeless person, so. So from that, then, do you remember the first sort of when you then were like, oh, actually, this is probably what I want to do for a job? Do you remember the first thing that you thought of?
I remember when I took a real interest, not necessarily thought it was going to be a job, but I remember when I really thought this was going to be something that I want to do forever amongst the photography and filming. It was actually because, so I was very overweight when I was young, really, really overweight, constantly bullied. And I've got a family who are very into their fitness, and even cousins are really into their fitness. And there was an occasion where we went to one of these indoor climbing halls, and my brother worked there at the time, so he was able to get us in for free. And he had just got a mini DV camcorder at the time for his birthday. And I ended up, because I couldn't really do the climbing, my brother said, why don't you film some clips for us? So I was doing all the filming, and it was during that session I got so involved at getting different angles, and I was really then keen to go home and put it together, make something, because then that was what I contributed to that day. And then I was able to show off to my family, you know, this is what we did. And then I'd get some sort of praise, even though I was overweight, because I couldn't join in. And so it was from that point on that I took a real interest in filmmaking from that, because I was overweight.
How old were you at that point?
About 10.
Okay.
About 10, 11. I can actually still remember the very first time I got a camera in my hand was when I was 7 years old. My mum bought me a Wallace and Gromit wind-up camera.
Nice.
That was the first time I ever got a camera in my hand, a point and shoot. But it was when I was 10 years old with my brothers and cousins that I knew that.
So it was actually video that kind of got you into it in the first place.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's actually because I actually ended up going to university to study TV and film production over photography. And I've got such a great interest in both, as you know, and it kind of lends itself. There's a crossover with photography and video, especially with the cameras nowadays that can shoot video and photo. But I love movies. I love films. Me and my family, we adore films. And when it came time to pick university choice, I chose filming because at the time photography was more taught from an artistic point of view. I did it at GCSE and I didn't enjoy it because it was more, how does it make you feel? And we had to design an A1 poster with our images, and I wanted to learn the technicality, because I believe that once you know the technicality, that can fuel your creativity. But I didn't know the technicality. But then I heard that TV and film production course that I was interested in was more technical based. I thought, that's what I want to do. So I ended up going to... Originally, actually, I applied for TV, radio and film production at Canterbury. I didn't get in because I didn't get the grades. And then I looked at Greenwich University, which was just TV and film production. I actually did apply, but they immediately said, no, we've got too many people applying. So then when I didn't get Canterbury grades, I thought, I wonder if Greenwich may have places. So I went on their clearing list and it wasn't there. So I called them up and said, out of interest, is there any spaces for TV and film production? I originally applied, but they said no straight away. They said, yes, actually, we do have spaces. Wow. I said, it's not on the clearing list. They said, yeah, we haven't updated it yet. So if you can imagine, the day I'm getting my results, everyone's already got their results, walked out, and I am on the phone waiting for my fate to be what's going to happen for the next 3 years. So I called up and they said... we went through the rigmarole. I told them my grades. They said, unfortunately, they're not the grades that we require. And I said, look, is there any way I can send you some portfolio, some work that I've been doing up until this point? So they gave me an email. And
I've got a good one at a climbing
facility. Yeah, this will be it. Just send it some.
10 years old.
Yeah. And then I waited anxiously for a phone call. It was a different woman who I remember who called me back. She didn't. She went straight into, okay, I've just seen your work, and it was after a brief chat. She said, my name's actually Judy Watkins. I'm the head of TV and film production here at university, and I'd like to give you a place.
Wow.
Accept you on our course.
Based on your work.
Based on my work.
That's
not
probably
my
the first
grades.
time then of your career that you've gotten an opportunity purely based on your ability rather than like grades and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Which is important in the creative world, I think.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we'll go on to my feelings of university, but at that time, I guess it shows that I had the passion, and they want obviously people like that. So that's how I was able to get
It's
into that.
surprising in a way, as photography is a creative art. It is bizarre how, for all of the universities I applied for, I had to go and audition and show what I could do. Very weird that that wouldn't be a requirement.
That's a really good point. I never thought about it, but it should be.
Why is it based just on grades? I mean, I actually didn't know that.
I don't think any creative
should know.
industry should ever be based on your grades. It should be based on your ability and your work, your portfolio.
I'm sure most people have said on this podcast that it's not the grades that have ultimately led them to the job they're doing, right?
Yeah.
And
Exactly. Yeah.
and the same
It's
for me.
just weird that the academic world still sees grades as like the be all and end all of. And I get how it is in like science or maths.
Oh,
or
sure.
stuff like that.
100%.
Like, you're based on your knowledge.
Yeah.
Whereas with creative, you're based on your. I don't know what the word is. It's not. Ability feels like it's just too, because you might not be as able as you will be. It's almost like a natural gift. Like you can see in someone if they've got a flair for it.
Yes.
You know? And I think you should be judged on whether they think you've got that flair. You know? And I know that's really hard
100%.
to. Do they have flair? Don't they have flair? But I think that should be what is the clincher for people. Can I see the future in them?
Yeah.
I totally agree. I never thought about it, but that's
Neither had I until you said that, and I thought that is a very bizarre way of doing it, really. But I do want to hear your views on university. But just going back a little bit to when you said you first picked up that camera, and that it was like through a time where you were getting quite heavily bullied and things like that. Did finding that passion and that outlet give you did that change anything for then how you maybe dealt with that bullying, or did it not really cross over into like school?
it gave me a focus. It gave me a drive. I had meaning. Most of us use the media to escape to temporarily, but I called it my home. It was my thing. It felt like it just never felt more right that this was going to be my thing, and didn't matter about the bullying because I had a focus and a drive, and this was what I was going to learn and be the best I can be at.
That is so interesting.
I love it.
And so important.
There's actually been a few people that we've had on that once they find the thing, it kind of makes everything else fall away.
100%.
And it's so, I feel like it's just going to get, every time we get someone new on that talks about how they've gotten into what they do, it's going to be that same old thing where there is a moment that it just switches and they become the person they're always going to be.
It must be really interesting for you too in this early stage, but you're almost trying to then flesh it out.
Yeah.
Where was the turning point?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it is. It's weird. It's almost like when we first decided to do this, we were like, what if like people start coming on and actually it's just really like, no, I just did it because I couldn't think of anything else to do. Do you know what I mean? But actually everyone so far has, God, the things.
Well, I have not yet met a creative person that is not passionate about what they do.
Well,
It's the very nature of it.
It's funny you say that, Rach. I picked media studies at GCSE where you can pick options. Media was one of them. I genuinely picked it thinking it was going to be easier than geography. Because I think, we'll just be watching films all day.
Yeah.
And I remember the first film we watched at GCSE Media Studies, it was The Sixth Sense, and how we were learning how when you see red, how it was an iconographic object and how it had meaning, and then how a high angle shot makes someone appear small or subordinate, and the opposite is high and dominant. And just the language of filmmaking then was like, oh my God, that's so interesting. Then it made me look at films so much in a different way.
You watch them differently. Don't you?
I mean, I grew up of a generation where we bought DVDs. I always bought 2 discs, always the 2-disc version, because I would love the behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And I would want to know how the film was made so that then when I watched it again, I had a newfound appreciation for how it was made, so that I don't know. I felt like I can identify. I knew how it was. Yeah. Just
well,
knew how
you
it was
definitely
made.
brought that into the more simplistic shoots that we did together, right? Where it'll be single camera, it will be whatever lights we had at the time. Just bring whatever we have and just make it work.
Yep.
You always brought a real sort of creativity to a set. Even if it like we were only making cover videos on YouTube, but you would always have these big ideas for how we could just make this simple cover video even more sort of visually pleasing.
Yeah.
You know, and even some of the simplest videos that we have on my channel, I'll put a playlist on my chat on the What Was I Made For of all the videos that Tommy's helped me with, and I'll put some of your personal projects on there too. But I want people to kind of see how those videos, there's always something interesting happening. Like even the simple video, there's one of me and Louise where we're singing 4 or 5 seconds. That song.
I love that one.
And you use a star filter, and it gives it such a classic, timeless kind of feel. And you said that to me on the day, and I was like, Tommy, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, let's just, I trust you. You're the guy that camera. And then when I got the footage back, I was like, this just looks beautiful. Like it had this certain quality to it that I just didn't know. I couldn't see your vision, but you have such a vision.
Yeah, thank you.
Which
appreciate that.
Yeah, which I think is just testament to your sort of your flair.
Thank you.
Yeah,
It is very special
as opposed to the
watching
flair
you
that
work.
was in the shop.
exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, it's very special watching you work because I don't know if when it's not your industry, and it isn't ours, photography and videography isn't really our industry, but when you watch somebody like you who it is their apps, it's not just a job, it is their passion. It is fascinating, isn't it? The amount
But I
of
think
video.
having a video guy on set who has a energy is so important for the performers. And I think you've told me many things over the years that have stuck with me. But one is the eyes are hungrier than the ears.
That's right.
Right? And that stuck with me throughout my entire career because I now say that to people when I'm filming
Do you?
stuff. Yeah, I'm I'm still learning how to like direct as sort of charismatically as you. Because do you agree with that? Would you say that on set you are just a bit of a ball of energy?
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah.
I had a conversation only yesterday with an old client, and they've said that we want you back to shoot some covers for this band. I wasn't able to do the last date because I had a wedding, and they said the last guy was okay, but he said you just had an energy and you brought it out of the performance, and they've specifically asked for you back, and I do think you got to have that.
You're the only guy
energy.
I know that does it like that. You're just genuinely. I get hyped up from you directing me on. If I'm performing on camera, you'll be performing more than me behind the camera.
Yeah, I'm just as out of breath at the end of a take as hopefully the performers are, because I'm jumping around. I'm trying to get the energy up. Yeah, because ultimately it's going to bring the best out.
It's a real gift, mate. Honestly,
Thanks, man.
it is really good.
It is.
Thank you.
So when you finally decided, like, actually, I think this is the thing I'm going to do, how did your parents react to that? Were they supportive?
I told my mum. So at the time, because it's been a lot video focused we've been speaking about. So I said at the time I'm going to be a filmmaker. I'm going to be a director. And my mum said, "That's nice."
That's what you want to hear.
But was she all for it, or did she just basically just like go, "Okay, yeah, whatever you want, dear"?
Yeah, it was. It was like, I don't think she ever. I think she was just happy to support me in whatever I wanted to do. I don't know if she thought that it was going to be a career, but whatever I wanted to do, okay, then we'll make it work. Because if that makes you happy, then we'll go for that.
I feel like you were about to go into something about university.
Yes. I did not enjoy my university experience, in all honesty. I didn't feel, again, this is just from my personal taste, the people I was sharing a classroom with, I didn't feel were as passionate as I was. I felt like they were there because some were there, it was something to do, they thought they were interested in it, or we'd come back off the summer holidays and be like, "Oh, so what did you do?" Go, "Oh, well, just partied, did this, did that," and I would be like, "Oh, I did loads of portfolio work. I did this. I met this contact." I just felt like I was the most passionate one in the room, and I felt like I was a different person at university. I almost wish I could go back now and as I am now to relive it. I also didn't stay on campus, and I feel like that was probably a big part of university that I didn't experience.
Create a bit of a disconnect between the people that were living there.
Yeah. You do miss out.
I feel like I shouldn't have gone to uni, if I'm totally honest. I feel like it was probably a waste of money, I I didn't learn a lot. But I kind of messed it up for myself because the month before going to uni, I hadn't ever studied music technology before. So I spent the whole summer brushing up on it and learning everything I could from textbooks, online, whatever I could find. I was just eating up all that education. Got to uni, I was best in the class because I'd learnt too much.
Right.
So instantly got into the course, bored, because I knew it all.
Did it? Because for me, it felt like year one was getting everyone up to speed because people might be at different levels.
I did my dissertation in my first year.
What?
Yeah, I did my dissertation in my first year because it was making an album, and it was making an album and doing a write up of it and making and presenting it in a nice way, like with a booklet and everything like that. So in my first year, I spent the whole year recording the album. I got my sister to help me do graphic design for this published book that went along with it, did the write-up, and I failed my first year because I didn't go to lectures. So I finished. I completed the end assessment for the entire course in my first year, but I didn't go to lectures, so I failed my first year and had to repeat it.
No way.
Mad. I had the strangest university experience ever.
That's so crazy.
But I got so much out of it on a social level.
Sure.
Gained a
and
wife.
obviously I met Rach. So
that's how you met there? Oh,
yeah.
right.
So I'm glad it did, guys.
I paid £30,000 for a wife.
Worth every penny.
was the next thing he was going to say.
Obviously.
Yeah, exactly.
Just thought I'd get it in there just in case.
Exactly. Yeah, I always wanted to start a podcast. So with mine.
Brilliant.
Right. Sorry. Yeah, that was a tangent. But yeah, university.
That's interesting though.
It's kind of interesting. A lot of people have mixed views of whether it was good for them, whether it wasn't, whether it was even worth going in the end. So it's very interesting.
So you've never had to show your degree?
God, no, of course not. Absolutely not. No one cares what my grade is. They look at my Instagram. They look at my website. Can I do the work? Or word of mouth. Have I worked with someone that they know and they liked my energy on set and they want that energy? It's not a grade, is it?
Yeah. No, it's so true. It's very interesting. Nice to hear that perspective as well, because I still think performing arts is a bit of a funny one, because I do think you've got to probably go and train at a drama school to kind of have that credit in a way to then be respected and gain an agent.
But then you think about with physical performance. I do think there are certain things you need to learn, and you need to learn as part of a group. Whereas being a photographer, being a videographer in something that you are kind of the sole person involved in that, I do think the only way of really honing that skill is just by doing it lots.
But
and
a lot
in your
of
own
parents,
time.
a lot of parents will still go to uni. Like if you've got the grades to go to uni and do that next stage of life. Whereas actually you're saying if you had started 3 years prior, would you have got the same work? And
yeah, it's interesting. I do wonder if the parents saying that it's just a generation thing. I kind of forgive them for saying that.
Yeah.
I think it's just a norm, a go-to. But I think
That's what we did in our day.
Yeah. I kind of forgive parents for saying that. Mm-hmm. But it's a different time.
Yeah.
So say in like 16, 17 years time, when George is of age to go to university, if George wants to go into the creative world, will you have an opinion on how he goes about doing that? Or
well, I'll certainly give him my experience.
Yeah.
And then ultimately let him decide what he wants to do. If he wants to go to university, then great. Because if it's, as you say, there's more to uni than just the grade. There's the social element, which you definitely explored.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if he wants to...
Disapproving nod there.
Carry on, Tommy.
Of course, George might meet a wife there.
Of course.
Absolutely, yeah.
A good one.
Yeah.
A good one.
Yeah. We now move on to present day. What are we up to at the moment, Tommy?
So we spoke a lot about video and filmmaking.
Yeah.
So I naturally transitioned doing more photography work. I was always
interesting. How did that happen? From video to photography?
Well, I was always interested in photography. I started shooting music. I was huge passion for music. I always wanted to be in a band, but I couldn't play an instrument. So photographing the band or being in the pit was as close as I could be.
Hey, you can bang a good cajon. I've seen it.
which is a Spanish drum, by the way. Just it's not a euphemism. That's...
Oh my God.
It was the closest I could be to being in the band. And I was doing photography even while I was at university studying filmmaking. And it just so happened that I just naturally was starting to get more photography work. I think with video, there needs to be more budget because there's more equipment or they might need a team. Photography is generally just, most of the time, just one person.
Yep.
So I just naturally was getting more work with photography. I dabbled in a bit of everything, like anyone in their career will dabble into with photography. They'll dabble into a bit of everything. They'll try a bit of pets and portraits and weddings and lifestyle and landscapes. They'll try everything till they figure out what it is they want to do. And coming up to the present day, I am now primarily a wedding and portrait photographer. That's now my thing. So when I was doing portraiture, it was mainly with music. It was mainly artists and musicians. And in that industry, it's a bit of a pedestal. And having worked with some very lovely people, there isn't as much of an appreciation for what you do versus photographing a wedding. Photographing an artist, after about 2, 3, 4 months, they're going to need new material because that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
Photographing someone's wedding day, those images are going to live with them for the rest of their life. I mean, what an honor and a privilege as a photographer to be able to have
Capture
that
that
responsibility. And that's why I love that genre, because there's a level of appreciation is unreal.
Yeah.
Out of all your photography ventures, my favourite shots you've ever done, and I don't know why I'm drawn to them so much, is that you remember the video you did in Iceland?
Yes.
Oh, it's one of my favourite videos.
Really?
One of my all-time favourites. And I've watched it God knows how many times.
Oh, wow.
Because I just think the photos you got on that trip are stunning.
Thank you, man.
And I've always wanted one. But I don't know how to get. I mean, I'd happily buy one off you, but I want to put one up because I found this thing where you can get an acoustic panel with an image printed on the canvas, and I'd love one of your Iceland ones.
Oh, yeah, great. Okay,
I'd love to do that.
Brilliant.
But I'll put that video also in the playlist because it is one of my favourites, and I just love the adventure of it.
Thanks,
you
man.
know.
Thank you. Thank you.
Did you get to shoot the Northern Lights that we had over here?
I didn't. I'm part of the meme that was asleep.
I was asleep too.
I'm worse. I was awake doing work with the curtains shut. Not on social media. I spent the rest of the next day just like, I'm
But one
fuming.
thing that we should say so people don't get annoyed about it is, I think Rob Beckett did a really funny TikTok or Instagram about it, and he was like, you don't see it with your eyes. You have to see it through a camera. So if you've seen it through someone else's photo, you've seen it.
That is so true.
It's the same thing.
That is so
Your
true.
photo is not going to look any different to anyone else's.
It's so true because for the photographers listening, when I was in Iceland, you look up at the sky, you kind of see it, but it's not until you set your camera to a 15-second shutter speed when it draws all of that light and makes it brighter. Then you ultimately see what it was there. But with the naked eye,
interesting.
it's nowhere near as strong as what you're seeing with the camera. When you set it up correctly and you set your shutter speed accordingly.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay, I feel a bit better now.
So I know for a fact, as a photographer, you have some incredible stories, especially when you were doing a lot of your traveling. As we're in the present day, would we be able to maybe pick one or two of those stories that you'd be happy to tell us? Because I know some of them have been quite exciting and maybe some quite testing ones.
So one that's immediately comes to me was when I was asked to do a project with Olympus. I took one of their cameras out and we went to Ethiopia. And so this travel trip, we were documenting people in their natural habitat, basically. And it was obviously utilising the camera. But my approach is I love working with people and shooting portraits. It's not so much of a documentary point of view. They're very aware they're having their photograph taken. And again, I'm sure that there'll be a video in the show notes for context. So we were in a village, and as we have a translator with us who was with us for the whole trip, and all of a sudden we had some very angry men walking towards us, and they were my translator was kind of diffusing the situation. Obviously, at this point, I don't know what they're so angry about. So we'd paid to actually go into this village, and the argument was that because we were professional photographers, I am. I don't know why I did that. The reason why I say that was because there were arguably other people there that had even bigger cameras than I had. But the reason I think what gave it away is because we had flashes, so we appeared professional. So because of that, they felt that we needed to pay more money. So they just like, look, we're just going to. So we went back to our car. They were still really angry. They wanted us to hand over money, and we said, we don't have any. Look, we're just going to go. Really sorry. So we got into our car, and we were driving down the road. They were following us in the back. Then they pulled up and they stopped our car and came to the window. There was more talking, and my translator said, they're escorting us to the embassy. They're not happy with what's gone on. So we went to the embassy, and it was not the embassy. It was just this really dingy shack with a guy behind a desk there, and lots of argument going on. They were like, we sat down, and there was they were like pointing at us and like pushing my shoulders and all this stuff. Like, you need to pay more, all this stuff. And so we don't have the money. It's like, okay, well, we'll escort you to the bank. The nearest bank was a 45-minute drive away, but it was closed. So we said, I can't physically give you anything. So they said, well, you're going to go in the morning then. So they waited outside our chalet with machetes in case we ran away. So didn't sleep that night because they were waiting for their money. And eventually morning came and got to the bank and then gave them whatever money they wanted.
Oh my God.
So it was really scary. And we almost didn't make it home as well because there was right outside the airport, there was a big protest going on. I think someone, quite a high religious person, died. So it was lots of touch and go whether we would make it home or not. We couldn't drive into the airport. We had to fly into the local airport. So we were able to get a propeller plane like Indiana Jones.
Oh, wow.
My assistant couldn't even stand up in the plane. It was so small. And we had to fly into the main airport. And once we've landed in the main airport, we knew we were safe because then ultimately we would then be going home to London. But yes, but that all happened in the last 48 hours. So glad it didn't happen in the first few days.
Oh, yeah. God, yeah.
But,
so do you know then, were they official people? Were they right in what they were?
They weren't official at all. The translators since then said it was just they just saw an opportunity to make more money because they believed if we had all this equipment that
you'll be good for the money sort of thing.
We would be wealthy.
Do you remember how much you had to pay them?
£800.
Pounds?
Yeah.
Did you get any images from the trip?
Yeah.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, as I say, that all happened in the last 48 hours.
And you were able to use them?
Yeah.
How's that affected you, like, now? Like, did that...
I think I would have been... my assistant he was very cool. I was crapping myself.
Yeah.
But
I would have been.
He was so calm and collected, and I just kept looking at him. I just kept looking at Alex ahead of me because he was just like the arguments were flying over our head, and I was like that. And Alex was just like, he was looking at me like...
Yeah, I would have needed someone like that as well.
Because you imagine if I'm like, but I didn't... Like, it just would have exacerbated the situation. So Alex said, just say nothing. Yeah. Just sit here, say nothing.
Oh, my God, Tommy.
So, was that one of the contributing factors to why you went to do weddings?
So you are a dad now.
I am.
I'm interested to know how you juggle being self-employed in a creative industry and being a parent.
With difficulty, at least at first. It was very difficult. There's a lot to be said about having a routine. My mum always said that. There's a lot to be said about having a routine. When you know if you do a 9-to-5 job, it's kind of easy to go to work and then come home and switch off. But as you know, as freelancers, when you do what you love, it can be hard to switch off. Mm-hmm. And I used to say when I speak on stage, I used to have a go-to thing at the end where I would used to say, the key to success is progression. If you're not progressing, you're not succeeding. And I don't believe that's now true. At least when you grow older, you change your priorities. And I now believe that the key to success is harmony and finding that balance between family life, especially when you become a dad and a husband. It's finding that harmony. So it's being strict with that time. When that time hits, switch off, and that's it. I can come back to it tomorrow, but now's family time. Now's time to be with my wife. Now's the time to be with George, my son, and to be there. So it's been very difficult at the start, but it is a discipline and something you learn like a muscle. You just train and you do get better, but it does take time for sure.
So advice from a very creative person to parents who maybe just had kids or they've had kids for a couple of years, who are maybe feeling like they've left something behind. Like, have you ever felt like that? Have you ever felt like you've had to sacrifice a lot for a child? And if so, how do you then recover from that? And how do you approach this new lifestyle of Tommy Reynolds, you know?
Yeah, it's something I'm still working on. George is 2 now, and there is ultimately sacrifice that has to be made for sure. Obviously, the reward of that though is you can have time with your son or your daughter. Yeah. But it was a worry that I even had before George. Was my world is my work, and it's what I believe it's the only thing I believe I'm good at. So when George came around, ultimately, things had to change. Things had to slow down. It's hit hard. Yeah. It's something I'm still battling, still dealing with. It's my photography and my work is my purpose. When I became a dad, I've been a photographer for over 10 years, and when you've got a newborn, you've been a dad for 5 minutes, and it's an awful feeling. But I felt like I'm more comfortable being at work at this time than being at home looking after my son, because I don't know what I'm doing, and I'd feel guilty at the thought of I would rather be at work right now because it's the only thing I'm good at, because I don't know what I'm doing at home. My mum has always, in my eyes, has been the perfect mum, and she's never stepped out, never done anything wrong. And it's not until having George that I'm having new conversations with my mum, and I'm learning new stuff about my mum, about her perspective. And she said something that I never thought she would say. She said, "Tom, there were times where I'd give anything to have swapped with your dad, to have gone to work rather than be at home cluster feeding a newborn and not leaving a chair." That was interesting perspective. I'd never thought my mum would say that. I don't feel like I don't have a great answer for that question, in all honesty.
Well, I guess the advice you could say to people is it's a process.
Yeah.
You do learn, and I think you're a guy that likes to be good at stuff.
Yeah.
So it must be hard to find yourself in a situation you knew you'd be in, but wanting to be great at it from the very first moment. And when you find out that it's not as that you don't understand it quite yet, that must be frustrating. And also you want to get back to something that you do fully understand, so that you feel more capable and you feel like you can offer something to the world.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah. It's my photography, I feel, is my purpose. But being a dad at that time, I didn't know how to do it. I didn't know what I was doing. And
that can be quite panicking and unnerving, right? Like not knowing.
So much so that I even had to have therapy because of it. Because I was so convinced I'm a terrible dad. I don't know what I'm doing. Because for 10 years, I'd been a freelancer at that point. For 10 years, I'd been my own boss. I knew what I was doing. I know how to get the job done. Yeah. All of a sudden, I'm in a job. I don't know what I'm doing. I mean, it's major imposter syndrome when you're a dad. And it's a learning curve that everyone says it, but it's true. No one can prepare you for it. You really can't. You have to. It's only something you can experience. And for people listening, if you're a parent, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. It's something you have to experience for yourself to know. And it's just finding your own path, because everyone's different. Everyone does things differently. And it's just finding what works for you as a family. But it's also going from a job that's very measurable, like very focused in, if I can earn this much, or if I get this many followers, or this, not that that's the be all and end all, but that's what our industry, unfortunately, is what it is, like it or love it. And Jimmy Carr said something really profound that really stuck with me. And he said, when you become a dad, you have to transition from measurable to immeasurable ways of thinking. Because when you're a dad, it's not just, well, if I hit this many targets, if I do this, if I do that, you can't measure things like that when you're a dad. When you are creative, you can. And so I think that's been a transition for me, is realizing that when you're a dad, there is no way of measuring how good you are. I don't think. Just show up, be there, and be as present as you can. And it comes back to that harmony thing. If you can find that balance and get back to doing what you can as soon as you can, but it's a process, and it may take years to come back to that point.
I feel so grateful that you've shared that side of things, because I think that's definitely been a conversation between us for probably years about the right time, both being freelancers and in a creative industry. But to hear such an honest perspective on it, I think so many people will probably be like, thank God someone's finally saying the things I also felt, because more often than not, you do hear, like, obviously everyone who's a parent, we get like our friends who are parents moan about like the hardships of it, but that's so raw what you've just said. And I really think I feel very grateful to have, like, you've shared that with us, because and you
don't always hear from the dads as well.
No, you don't.
No. And I do think it's a really interesting perspective to maybe feel like you're secondary to the mum, which is just the natural role, I think, that is, it just happens.
And I think because you feel secondary, you don't feel like it's your place to, or you don't want to speak out because you think, oh, well, mum's got it worse than me, so I'm just going to say nothing. And, and then that obviously bottles up. I remember reaching out to a couple of friends and said, I'm having therapy, and they said, yeah, me too. Oh, I didn't realize. And both of those friends, the first two people I said having therapy, had also been having therapy, and I didn't know it.
Needs to be spoken about more, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Thank you for sharing that.
No, pleasure. Because it's not just, if you help yourself, then you ultimately help everyone around around you.
Exactly. The final part of this podcast is the big name of the podcast. It's the question that we all want to know the answer to, and none of us know the answer to. What do you believe you were made for?
I believe I was made to be a visual storyteller. I was going to say a photographer, but I love making YouTube videos, documentaries in my personal projects. So I believe that I'm a visual storyteller. I love working with people. I'm passionate about people. I love to hear their stories. I love capturing their stories. There's no better feeling. There's no better honor, privilege than to capture someone's story, especially on their wedding day specifically. I'm here to be a visual storyteller and tell their story in the most compelling way possible.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
You are so welcome.
Yeah, Tommy,
it's
that's
been so lovely.
Beautiful.
Thank you very much.
Have a good day.
You too.
Peace out.
Bye.
You know, when I'm like this with voice notes. You know, when you get to the end of a voice note and you're like,
bye.
Love you, bye. And that's it for this week's episode. Thank you so much for listening and for watching if you're on YouTube. We will see you again next week. But until then, don't forget to leave us a comment, a review, and all the good stuff.
Follow. What Was I Made For Pod?
And send us an email to
whatwasImadefurpod@gmail.com.
We will see you again next week, as once again we try to answer the big old question.
What was I made for? Goodbye.
Bye. You just can't finish it with a heart, can you? What Was I Made For is a Reynolds Studios production.